morning, everybody. I am Will Rucker. It's an honor to be with you and to share an idea. Let me first let you know that your founder and main leader here is extremely brave for allowing me to come and share an idea. So it's going to be a good time. Let me see if and I'm totally cash, so forgive me if I'm not, all polished and whatnot. But today I want to talk about the idea of people above possessions. Putting people above possessions. This is really looking at our priorities and reprioritizing what it is we do with our lives, with our resources, with our time, with our talent, with our treasure. So the way that I like to start is to get us all in the right frame of mind with an affirmation. So I'm very interactive. I'm going to talk to you. I need you to talk back to me. But the first thing that we're going to do is, as a group, we're going to read this affirmation together. And if you don't believe it now, hopefully by the end of our discussion today, you'll be a little closer. So on the count of three, let's read this together. 1, 2, 3. I am the presence of love. I see everything through the eyes of love. Love surrounds me. I am safe and secure. Love reaches out through me and touches everyone I contact. I am love. I am loving. I am loved. Can you turn to someone next to you and tell them that they are loved? Wonderful. Thank you for indulging me in that. So I want to share with you a story about Grandma's hams. My grandma is an amazing cook, and back when I used to actually partake of animal flesh, I really, really loved her hams. And so, of course, my dad would try to cook at home and all of that and make her ham. And so I had to be maybe 6 or 7 years of age, and I said, "Hey, Dad, why do you keep cutting the end off the ham?" And he's like, "Well, this is the way your grandmother makes it, and I wanted you to have her ham." And I said, "Oh, okay, good." So next time I was at my grandma's house, I said, "Hey, Grandma, why do you cut the end of the ham off?" And she looked at me kind of strangely, and "What do you mean?" I said, "Why do you cut off the end of the ham before you cook it?" And she's like, "I don't cut the end of the ham off." And I'm like, "Yes, you do. Dad said you cut the end off before you cook it." And she was like, "Baby, I cut it off because we didn't have a big enough pot when we were growing up." So that's why he cut the end off, because that's how we've always done things. Not actually my story, but I just want to kind of open with that so that you are in the right frame of mind here. So anybody familiar with the food pyramid? Yeah, okay. So this came about because we had a problem with our health and things in America, and they're like, "We got to eat better, do the right things." But then we discovered something really interesting about that. It didn't fix us. Actually made us worse. Sometimes the tools that we use or employ are worth the effort, but in the end, they're not great. And so sometimes we have to reevaluate how and why we do what it is we do. Anybody here brave enough to say they hate change? Yeah, I hate change. I want to know exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, why it's going to happen, and if it doesn't happen that way, I have a problem. So, change can be very, very difficult because change is scary. We are built, at our physiological level, to be repetitive beings. That's why when we sing songs, we love the chorus because it's the same thing over and over and over again. We like familiarity. Well, sometimes that gets us into a situation where we're not living our best lives and we're not actually even employing what's available to us. I love your space here and the tables and the chairs and the different levels. This is fun. This is casual. This is something that you can actually engage in. But do we call this a church at all? Okay. Most churches don't look like this. I love that we have a very eclectic mix of people. Most churches don't look like this. Not because they shouldn't, not because they couldn't, but because they're still doing things the same way they've always done them. And so we have to be brave enough to change. So I came across this quote that I really, really like, and it's by one of my favorite dudes. He's the dude of all dudes, name's Jesus. And he says, "You have heard that it was said, 'Love your neighbor and detest your enemy.' But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who oppress you." If you're listening, here's my message. Keep loving your enemies no matter what they do. Keep doing good to those who hate you. Keep speaking blessings on those who curse you. Keep praying for those who mistreat you. And again, that's a quote by Jesus of Nazareth, a prophet, a martyr, and an insurrectionist. So my question for you this morning is, what happens if we actually love our enemies? What happens? And I'm not talking about love as this warm, fuzzy feeling, the butterflies in the stomach, or even a feeling of fondness or affection, but I mean love as in agape, which means to do good. That's an active thing. It means to show charity, to offer benevolence. What happens if we actually love our enemies? Well, that's a great question, but how do we do that? I mean, it sounds great as an idea, but how can we practically, actively love our foes? If someone is being oppressive, it's kind of difficult to then do good for that person. Anybody brave enough to admit that too? Well, I have a couple ideas. Returning to our theme or our main idea, people over possessions. The reason we view most as our enemy is because of fear, because of lack of trust, because we believe in this idea called scarcity. We think that if I'm kind to you, it robs me of what I have. Well, I just want to let you know that that's not true. If we reprioritize our lives, make them optimal, and put people above possessions, then the world works for everyone.